Hi, good afternoon. Today we have Law 10 for the 48 Laws of Power. Law 10 goes into infection and you avoiding the unhappy and unlucky. A quick judgment of that law: if you want to help someone because they seem less fortunate of you, many times when you get involved in their problems, they become yours, which their unluckiness and their unhappiness may impact you in some negative fashion. Whereas if you associate yourself with happy and fortunate people, then their success may impact you in a positive way. And that's the essentially basic Law 10 analysis. A transgression of this law, we're going to go look back to Paris in the 1500s. There was Lola Montez, and that was actually a stage name. She was known as a flamenco dancer. Her real name was Marie Gilbert. She went by Lola, and she danced for a little bit, but her career in flamenco dancing wasn't really taking off, so she became a courtesan, and she sort of put those thoughts of being a professional dancer away. And that is until she actually determined that, she might actually have a break if she plays her cards right. And that's sort of where the infection started. So Lola got to know France's newspaper. He was a newspaper owner, Alexandre Duharrier. It was in 1845. I'm sorry, this isn't the 1500s, the 1845. And he owned, this Alex guy, he owned the largest newspaper circulation in France in 1845. So Lola knew this, and she's like, okay, how could I woo this person? So one fateful morning, she, after learning Alex Duharrier rides horses, she took her horse and purposefully ran into him. But she made it seem like it was a coincidence. And that's when they first started talking. And Alex really liked this girl. She moved into his apartment. And after a couple years, Duharrier wanted to eventually get married. And he didn't know, but Lola actually did have a previous marriage from an Englishman from a few years ago, and she eloped. So she eloped a while ago. The marriage is still legally binding, and Alex didn't know that, and eventually it sort of put a wedge in their relationship. Former influential friends of Alex stopped associating with him. But there was one fateful evening where there was an event. Paris's young wealthy men were going to be in attendance. And Alex, of course, being a young promising person, didn't want Lola to go with him. So he went alone. And they had an argument over this, and it really didn't pan over well for Alex. And most of this stemmed from her prior elopement, whatever you call it. And that sort of seeped into his confidence in their relationship, and the community really looked down on it. But anyways, at this party that Alex went to, where he didn't allow Lola to come, he got drunk. He got really drunk. He wound up insulting a influential drama critic. It went by the name of Beauvillain. And this Beauvillain guy, he was angry. He didn't like the insults, so he challenged Alex to a duel that night. And what do you know? Alex loses the duel when, it's a really sad situation, because if Lola was up front with this Alex guy, he probably would have had her come to the party with him. He was devastated that she was currently already married, and obviously he went the route of not inviting Lola and getting really drunk at the party, and he did something stupid which resulted in the loss of his life. After that, Lola was devastated. She got out of Paris and went over to Bavaria, for her next target. The infection. She infected Alex, and now she's it's 1846, so this was only a few months later. She targeted the King Ludwig of Bavaria, and she knew exactly how to get to him because he was a really important person. So Lola did the horse stunt again, but she ran into King Ludwig's Count Rechberg, and eventually she got a meeting after consulting with Rechberg. She got a meeting with the king. It wasn't really set up. They sort of showed up at his domain, and he said, no, I don't want to talk to anyone who's just asking for favors. And she that was relayed to her through his sentries, and she just pushed through them. And in this whole mess, she was fighting through these sentries to get to the king. Somehow, some way, of course, her dress was torn and she was left exposed. And from there, she was embarrassed, but she got a meeting with the king, and it led to an arrangement of performances. So she got her dancing career back. Marie Gilbert got her dancing career back as Lola Montez. She started making all these appearances, having performances, and it was working out really, really well for her. And it was really courageous of her to just, from the start, go right up to the king. But eventually, the king would go out with her. She probably felt really good because the guy was finally taking her out. And they got close. He eventually bought Marie an apartment, all furnished. And eventually this power went to Marie, or we'll go to Lola, went to Lola's head. And she would be aggressive with people. I mean, one time her dog attacked someone that was walking past them, and she didn't pull the dog off him. She started whipping the guy with a leash. I mean, she was just mean. All this power was going to her head. And these actions, they made the Bavarian citizens lose all respect for their king. Eventually, the king had to tell Lola to leave Bavaria and get out of here. This is terrible. And she did. Soon after that, the king was abdicated of his position. He was no longer a king. He lost his kingship. And that's another instance. Lola served as an infection to everyone she associated with. There was one other one here. There was a son of an influential barrister, George Heald. His name was George Heald. He was actually thrown into poverty because of this Lola woman, and estranged from his community. I mean, she just did a number on embarrassing these guys. Then actually in 1853, one of her last goes at it, she met a California guy. They got together, married. He drank himself to death after 4 years. And that's just, what Lola did. She attached herself to these kings and pretty much made her problems theirs. Her abusive behaviors really led everyone she associated with to plunge themselves down where they wouldn't have been if they never associated with her. So that's just a little lesson on avoiding infections. Anyone that's unhappy and unlucky, making sure their circumstances don't become yours. The funny thing with Lola, after she went through her spree, she decided to put down her material possessions, and she found God. And she would go around America doing tours, just on religious topics. She would even make herself appear like an angel dressed in all white with like halo-like headdress. So she passed away in 1961. But it's pretty wild. That's Law 10, infection, avoid the unhappy and unlucky.